Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the MIT Executive MBA Business Analytics panel. This is a great opportunity for us to connect and share ideas about MIT's position in business analytics, but also the experience through the MIT Executive MBA. Let's talk a little bit about who's on the panel tonight and in our conversation. I'm Will Makris. I'm one of the admissions advisors and have had the privilege of being with the program since it launched. Deborah, please introduce yourself.
I'm Deborah Mahar. I'm an admissions advisor as well with the program and did much of the research pre-program going back to December of '09.
Thank you. And Tom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Little. I'm a marketing assistant with the team. My biggest job is social media. That's where you'll see my work. I'm doing mostly technical aspects tonight, but I'm glad to see you all here and hopefully can help answer questions in the Q&A.
And speaking of the Q&A, we want to engage you right away in the Q&A function as we go through the evening. Let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. We'll do a relatively quick overview of the MIT Executive MBA. There are many opportunities to dive in further on our website and through previous recordings. Deborah then is going to take us through a bit of, taking us through the curriculum. We'll then jump back to the business analytics and leadership at MIT. And then just a little bit later, and we'll get to this as quickly as we can, inviting one of our alums to join us who has experience in the field of business analytics and AI. And so we'll have some fun as we get further on. So with that, I'm happy to turn it over to Deborah.
Thanks, Will. So I'm going to provide an overview of the EMBA program, talking a little bit about the mission, the format, curriculum, and faculty. And we'll start off with the mission of the Executive MBA. MIT is a mission-driven institute. The focus on the mission is really a differentiator for the university, for Sloan and the EMBA. And it's important because it lays the foundation for the program, defines what MIT is about, and it also plays a role in your candidacy. So as stated here, the mission of MIT is to advance knowledge and educate students in science, technology, and other areas of scholarship that will best serve the nation and the world in the 21st century. For over 100 years, the Sloan School has embraced the same objectives and built upon this mission. And Sloan's mission is to develop principled, innovative leaders who improve the world and generate ideas that advance management practice. So as a part of the larger institute, Sloan plays the important role really of translating innovations in science and technology into organizational capabilities. Simply stated, it's to take science and technology out to the world. And our students are in a very unique position in that they immediately contribute to the mission. They put education into action because they're working while they're in the program. They are in decision-making roles, and they apply the learning through the action learning component of the program. On an individual level, we enable leaders really regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, disability, and sexual orientation to achieve the extraordinary. So as an overview, this is a 20-month program. Orientation starts this September. Classes start in October of this year with graduation of May of 2025. You will receive an MBA degree. We meet over 26 weekends. Weekends are full day Fridays and Saturdays. Averages about every third weekend. Occasionally you are here every other weekend. There are also 4 one-week modules, and these take place every 6 months. So first week on campus, last week right before graduation, and then 2 spaced in between. There is a week-long international trip, which is part of a course called GoLab, placed mid-March of your final year. So the curriculum is designed for adult learners. We recognize that you're coming in successful already and build upon that success. So learning style is about a third lecture in theory, about a third case study, and a third of action learning. I'm going to do a high-level overview here. If you want to really deep dive, we have a webinar called Action Learning on our website. So you can break the categories of curriculum into 4. There are the weekend sessions. These are the Friday, Saturday sessions. And there are 2 types of courses: analytic frameworks, and these are courses that help you build frameworks to analyze business opportunities and solve some of the unstructured, complex problems that are out there today. Courses include microeconomics, organizational processes, and system dynamics. And then the other course on the weekend are business essentials, and these are the fundamentals of business management. Think of functional expertise that's important for general managers: accounting, finance, marketing, etc. Second are the 4 week-long integrated modules, and these are the full weeks, and they are focused on a particular theme and are inherently cross-disciplinary. First one takes a look at strategy and sustainability. The second one, innovation-driven entrepreneurial advantage, which is a mouthful, looks at innovation in entrepreneurship. The third is looking at global macroeconomic policy. And then the last, leading with impact. Right before graduation, you have your choice of an action learning project in partnership with one of our 20 Boston area nonprofits. And while action learning takes place throughout the program, there are 2 formal large-scale projects. Organization Lab, or OLab, is a project that you do for your own organization, basically looking to fix something that's not working as well as it should. And classes here include system dynamics, operations management. And then in your final semester is a project called Global Labs. And this is an international project, does involve a trip to the company sites for field research. And you can think of it as a group of advisors going out. You do go out on a team. And then with the electives, even though this is a cohort fashion, more or less lockstep, electives do allow you to delve in and customize your experience. Electives are held approximately 3 times, your first and second January, and then in your final spring. You can also cross-register at Harvard and in other MIT full-time programs, provided you can logistically make it work. And as well, our alumni are invited back for electives. The philosophy of the program provides further insight into what distinguishes the program, and it's based on a number of pillars. Philosophy is really grounded in action learning. You'll hear this again and again. It's about incorporating what you're learning into your daily life at work. MIT's motto, Mens Humanis, means mind in hand. And this provides students with the theories and frameworks in the classroom, and then you're applying them to real projects in your organization and others as well. You can think of this where theory meets practice. Students are challenged to address unstructured problems. So it's very hard to anticipate the complex challenges and decisions that you're going to face. Problems that opportunities / don't fall into categories of finance one day and marketing the next, but are really interdepartmental and interdisciplinary. So we give you a set of tools and frameworks that help you ask the right questions, both quantitative and qualitative, and apply it to your decision making. And then we look to help you make and produce systemic change. If you're going to be producing change, you want to make sure it's sustainable in the long term. And this requires breaking things down on a systems level, looking at work design and underlying processes. Going back to the mission, we look to develop principled, innovative leaders. There are many opportunities to develop your leadership skills, including a number of courses on leadership. You're provided with executive coaching and many opportunities to take on leadership roles within the program itself. Last is the science of management, and MIT takes a very scientific approach to management. It's very rigorous, very data-driven, along with building organizational management and leadership skills. All of this is built off leading-edge research by faculty. So I'd like to dig in a little bit deeper into the science of management. Data-driven decision-making really provides the foundation for business analytics. And this happens in a number of ways, starting with the faculty. They quantify their research versus being solely professors of practice. Our faculty have tenure because they've conducted pioneering research in their field. And then the research is put into practice through consulting, through labs, and connecting with our experienced student population. And at the same time, they're valued for their outstanding teaching ability. Second, business analytics permeates the curriculum across disciplines of marketing, operations, finance, system dynamics. Heavy data modeling is integral to decision-making and has cross-pollinated with other disciplines that were previously not data-driven. So this in turn has led to better strategic opportunities for organizations of all size, taking into consider really a broad view across disciplines within the organization. And examples can be found today in marketing through A/B testing, some of the digital marketing pricing, operations research, the discipline of applying advanced analytic methods, looking at optimization, statistics, machine learning, AI, and to make better decisions impacting society and the world as a whole. And then last, modern data science tools solve real-world business challenges. As a thought leader, MIT has been really key in advancing the fields in computing, AI, optimization, and machine learning. I'm now going to hand this over to Will, who's going to talk about the history and leadership of MIT in business analytics.
Thank you so much, Deborah. It's this foundation of what Deborah has been talking about, but about the scientific approach to the study of management actually permeates across MIT with our mindset of mens a manos and mind to hand and thought into action. And a bit about the legacy here, and this starts with the foundation back in the 1950s, where Jay Forrester, who is really the founder of the field of system dynamics, and created a new national research model which helped observe and predict economic behavior in a way that had never been done before. This is something as we look to grow and apply across the Institute now for over 70 years, is that same analytical mindset and idea. As a pioneer in early digital computing and development, Forrester actually invented random access magnetic core memory during the first wave of modern computing. So this is MIT beginning to lead the wave. Let's talk a little bit about the curriculum and how that's evolved. So since 1914, as Deborah said, MIT has been leading innovation in the field of business analytics from the business school, which was originally started as part of a engineering management curriculum. Other innovations that have come across the way is looking at the MIT Executive MBA, which granted its first degree in 2012. The initiative on digital education following along. A formal Master's of Business Analytics for those earlier in their career, launched in 2016. The MIT Schwarzman College of Computing in 2018, a major new college that goes across the entirety of MIT to look about ways that we can apply that type of analytical framework. And then the Business Analytics Certificate was launched in 2018, and Deborah will give us some details about that in a minute. Now across, there are many, many research centers at MIT, and this is one of those things that as you're thinking about going to business school, often you think, well, that's a vertical that's done at the business school. That's not the way MIT functions. Think of it as a cross-campus focus on different ways of thinking and ideas. And anything that's open to you as a master's student is open to every master's student across campus. Evolution of some of these different centers. In particular, we wanted to point you to the Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab. CSAIL is what we call it. It does extraordinary program. And this has been one of the hubs of where some of the AI and new ways of thinking and using data have come from. Statistics and Data Science Center is the most recent one in 2015. Now, how do we get practical about introducing new ways of analytical methods? And one of our favorites to actually talk about here is this MIT Sports Analytics Conference that started in 2000. Now, I got in trouble because I would say that, we don't have a team that can catch a football, but, they can, but they can also really predict where these balls are going. So this is where this conference has been convening a couple of thousand industry leaders, looking at predictive models and using AI across the sports industry and sector. but also at MIT are these other extraordinary industry conferences and events. Let's talk just a little bit more within the curriculum. And within the Executive MBA core, the courses that are targeted toward our business analytics framework, our applied economics for managers. Think of things like game theory and cost and profitability. We'll step into data models and decisions, of course, looking at ways of evaluating business processes, financial accounting, system dynamics, that core differentiator at MIT that we brought over from the engineering side of the program into the core of the curriculum, looking at capabilities and pathologies, growth dynamics and analysis within the curriculum, operations management, as you might expect, leading a global context. How do you overlay what we're doing within the, looking at growth theories, inflation, possibly a little bit about banking regulation, kind of a hot topic this week. And then financial management. How do we pull in corporate financing decisions, derivatives, and that type of thing? So within the core of the Executive MBA, even though it is a general management degree, you will have these opportunities to really dig deep and apply these analytical frameworks across the core. Stepping into the ways that we can focus our electives are a really exciting group of courses. These are that go across the Executive MBA, and as Deborah was saying, are formatted to be able to be delivered to our Executive MBA students through the electives program. This is an area where we will add usually 2 each year, but this past January, we offered 20 courses across a 4-day period, including ones where you can really step forward and lead. Analytics Edge is one of our key electives that we offer also within our final semester. Dimitris Bersimas is author of the book and the sector and has been a leading expert in this area. So to talk a little bit further and a little bit more how to formalize your study of business analytics, I'm going to turn back over to Deborah to talk about the business analytics certificate.
Thanks, Will. So as an EMBA student, there is a pathway to obtain the business analytics certificate. The requirements can be completed during the 20 months of the program, requires you to complete 6 courses with 1 required course out of the EMBA core and elective curriculum. So for the last several courses, the average has been 26, 27. Last year popped up to around 50. Some of that had to do with the online courses during COVID. And then this year, class of 2023 is on track to have somewhere between 30 to 35 students. So very popular certificate. You can take these courses one-off. So if there's a course on this list that you think you really want to take, you do not need to earn the entire certificate. Our goal is to help students sharpen their knowledge in this space so that they become better managers and consumers of data. So as you can see here, one of the core courses in the EMBA program is counted, the Introduction to Operations Management. And then there are 3 core certificates, Operations Management, Analytics Edge, Communication and Persuasion with Data. It's the one that Will mentioned. It's probably one of my very favorite courses, or Analytics Pro Seminar. So you have a choice within that grouping, and then 2 electives, System Dynamics being mentioned a couple times up here. And you can also take the System Dynamics, I guess the software piece that goes along with it, in the regular System Dynamics, which would count for it as well. And then some of the courses are offered remotely. When you have that final course that is not offered within the program, as I said, 5 are offered during the period. There are electives that will allow our students to obtain the certificate. We have very senior faculty teaching in the program, and they are world-class researchers. They're industry experts, distinguished teachers. And while there's over 40 faculty teaching, I will highlight only a couple. Starting with Georgia Parakis. She has a number of titles, the William Pounds Professor of Management, as I believe Tom may have mentioned earlier to me today, the Associate Dean for Social and Ethical Responsibilities of Computing, known as CERC. She is a professor of operations management and operations research and statistics, and co-director of the Operations Research Center. John Sturman teaches system dynamics, and he is the J. Forrester Professor of Management, System Dynamics and Engineering Systems, and director of the MIT System Dynamics Group. So just to highlight Georgia, she teaches data models and decision making and is very well loved. That course is referred to as statistics on steroids. So everyone has the opportunity to take that course. We are now going to open this up to your questions, so please use the Q&A. And I would like to introduce our alumni. Amerigo Rodriguez, he's a graduate from the class of 2020, and he's a co-founder of Match It Talent Solutions. And Amerigo, I'd like to thank you so much for your time tonight. And Amerigo has an interesting story. He did have a pivot during the program, but Amerigo, if you'd like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you currently do and why you chose the Executive MBA program at MIT.
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Thanks for having me. It's always exciting to come back and talk to folks. So just sort of a high-level nutshell. My background is actually in data analytics, so 15 years of my career. Started out as a data engineer, spent over a decade leading healthcare analytics teams, and then went over to Red Hat for a little bit of time leading the global data and analytic team there. And had a pivot, and that's the pivot Deborah is referencing. Co-founded Match It Talent Solutions there while I was at Red Hat, actually. Not something I would have done unless I graduated at MIT, which I'll talk about here in a second. It's really partnering with organizations to help them find the talent that they need to essentially prepare them for the future of work. Whether it's AI, computer vision, data analytics, sort of all that fun stuff. So essentially using my background and experience to help organizations sort of transform where they are and where they're trying to be. So in terms of the why the MIT EMBA, that's a wonderful question. You know, I spent, I'm sure as many of you, all of you are doing right now, probably researching a tremendous amount of institutions, asking yourself what works, what's right for me, et cetera. So, you know, after months and months of research, really honed and narrowed in on MIT. And the reason is my background, again, it's technology, computer science major, really big on tech and analytics. And so it was really important for me to find a program that really just valued the technology and really helped me develop that business component. Like there's some few questions around the business side, which I think I'll address here in a second as well. And really just looking for something that wasn't, you know, I knew coming out of the MBA program, I was not going to Wall Street, right? So not looking for investment banking or anything of that nature, really trying to figure out where can you possibly go to leverage my experience and my skills, and, you know, who knows where I think the future leads. And MIT was it. It's the reputation of the institution was critically important to me. The rigor of the program was very, very important to me. Deborah said this, but I'm just going to emphasize it again. When you graduate from the MBA program, you have a Master of Business Administration. That's not all programs have that. Some will say Executive MBA and things of that nature. The program that you run through, it's the exact same program that full-time students are actually doing as well. It's not like they're cutting it short or making it easier for you by any stretch of the imagination. And then the last piece was just trying to find, I think, a world-class network, a network that really, in many respects, was second to none. And MIT quickly falls to the top. So those are the key reasons that were.
Thank you very much, Amerigo. So we have a question from Todd. What is the balance in analytics curriculum between specific technologies and platforms, such as Tableau or Power BI, versus principles and methods that could apply to any analytic tool set?
Yeah, great question. So it's the latter all day long, right? So I'm not sure if I even used Tableau actually while at MIT. Doesn't mean I couldn't. I certainly could have. The emphasis when you go to the MBA program, it really is around principles, approaches, frameworks, strategies, and less around tooling. I mean, because if you pick Tableau, I'll pick Power BI. If I pick Power BI, the next person beside me is going to pick Looker. Someone else is going to pick something else in Python. It really doesn't matter. And they don't even dictate that, actually. You may have some assignments, certainly might be in Excel. That's not the emphasis at all. It really isn't about all the nuances of tech, but it really is about the nuances of scientific management, influencing strategy, right? Decomposing a business problem. And that's where the emphasis lies. And there's certainly some theory around math, but even then I would argue that they're not going to get bogged down on talking about a derivative, or right. They're going to really sort of raise it up a level and say, what problem are you ultimately trying to solve? Because at the end of the day, I think framing your question is by far the most difficult piece of the program. And the technology piece actually is probably easier to solve.
So I think I would add a little bit on to that. The tools and frameworks I've noticed give students a tremendous amount of confidence, and I see a shift about a third of the way through. So you don't need to know the answers. It's okay not to know the answers, but the frameworks give you an approach so that you know what questions to ask, quantitative and qualitative, apply them to your decision making so that you have the confidence that you're basing your decisions not on a gut feel, but actually on data. And really throughout the program, this comes into play, which is the background for why we do require that quantitative background on the front end coming in so that you are able to hit the ground running. So I'd like to remind everyone to submit their questions. Here to really answer your questions and provide deeper understanding. So we have a question from Ross. Beyond the required background in stats and calculus, is there any other language, platform, or technology familiarity that would be particularly helpful going into the fall semester? And again, bringing up Python, BigQuery, etc.
And I'm going to do a mind check on because as an analytics person, I'm like, well, you don't need all these things. And then I forget that people come from different backgrounds, right? Because the program, I mean, it's a beautifully diverse set of 125, 126 people, right? Everything from attorneys to doctors to startup to venture capitalists, people who are extremely technical. But you're going to use things like Excel all day long, right? You're going to add on a few different packages to Excel. The program is certainly quant heavy. But when I say quant heavy, it's about making data-driven decisions and not about writing machine learning algorithms, right, to predict an outcome. And I draw that distinction because I think a lot of folks get really intimidated, and I was one of them, by the way, applying to the MIT program, asking myself, man, I mean, am I that smart? I don't have a PhD in computer science. Am I going to get accepted? You know, I took Calc 3, but is it okay if my partner beside me only took Calc 1? It doesn't matter. Like that's not what they're after. I think there's some fundamentals that you certainly have to bring to the table, you know, to I think understand some of that those data-driven frameworks, but you'll never touch BigQuery, right? You'll never sit there and, you know, at least when I was in the program a few years ago, again, it's less about massive cloud computing type problem solving and more on the business analytics side.
Yeah. Can you think of any particular projects that you worked on, either your OLab or GoLab project, or even something in operations management or data models and decision making that would provide examples of things that you worked on while you were in the program for your company or for your startup that you were working on?
So I'm actually gonna pick LWI. It's leading with impact. You know, Deborah spoke about I think 4 or so different components. So you have the opportunity to work with a nonprofit, right? And it's really, really cool because you're so focused sometimes on working for your own company with sometimes most often than not massive amounts of resources. And then all of a sudden you bring sort of a SWAT team of folks who collectively have a tremendous amount of experience, and you bring it to a nonprofit and they're extremely grateful just to be able to have someone to talk to. So we worked with a company called Squash Busters, a nonprofit that works with troubled teens, et cetera. And they were trying to work through the recruitment process, right? Trying to understand, hey, we're really struggling, trying to figure out our JDs and who applies and who doesn't apply. And if we do this, we get the wrong candidate flow. And so, you know, we spent a lot of time, you know, here we see a lot of Excel, a lot of analysis, looking at JDs, looking at commonalities, whether it's word tokenization, just really trying to get a really strong sense of, do they have consistency in terms of how they write job descriptions? Do they need a process? But you need at least some level of data to figure out, yeah, this is completely different, or for the most part, it's okay. So I think it's really putting our collective wisdom, I think, together, Deborah and team, and then figuring out what tool you need to essentially help you ask the right questions, right, and sort of uncover some of those insights.
So how did you navigate your career shift? Did you use an executive coach? How did that all come about, and how did you progress?
That's a journey. I mean, I'll try to be succinct, and Deborah, don't hesitate to cut me off if I'm too long. Probably all of the above. In the program, by the way, you have an opportunity. I don't think you hit this ever, to talk to a coach. As part of your career, and so I had an opportunity to meet with my coach regularly about where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. I knew I was good in tech, former software engineer, data engineer, but I love people more than I love computers, right? And real, what I mean by that is I didn't want to spend the rest of my life behind a screen, even though I was, like to think I was good at it, but I loved being able to have a multiplied impact, if you will, a multiplier effect, being able to lead people through organizations. So worked at Blue Cross of North Carolina. It's a state-based health insurance, healthcare analytics sort of focused area. And then I realized when I came to Cambridge that my world is very, very small. It's North Carolina. And so that was a really big shift and a really big sort of, it was a challenge for me because I didn't almost, even though I thought I understood the world around me, I didn't. I mean, I didn't understand the global political geo components of hiring a team, and whether it's India or Russia or the Ukraine. How do you do that? Whether it's the Russia debacle, right? You sort of see with the whole Ukraine, people pulling out of that. What does that mean for your company? What do you do? And so working with the coach, the network, guys, you're going to hear me say that a lot, folks. They infuse you with different ideas and opportunities. And then I realized toward the tail end of the program, I'm like, wow, people talk about starting a company here and selling them and venture capital funding and PE funding, as if it's nothing. Like it's actually a thing. And for me, the whole entire time, I just thought it was impossible, right? And so over time, you gain confidence, not because of just what you learn, you gain confidence because of what everyone else around you has also done. And they talk about it in such a way that it's like, America, I'm happy to talk to you about how do you start a company? What does that mean? How do you raise capital? How do you build a company or a team in Monterrey, Mexico? And that's the fascinating part. So I guess what I'm saying, I just pulled on every string that's available to you, because if you don't, you're almost coming up short. And that's your people, your network, the coaches, the professors, by the way, are, when I say rock stars, I mean like full on rock stars, and they love talking to you. I'll end on this is, I took a cryptocurrency Bitcoin class. The gentleman who taught it was Gary Gensler. That's the chair of the SEC. So when you're like, wait, you go into the class, you're like, I know that guy. And you're like, holy cow, that's Gary Gensler. Or the guy that walks in to teach you macroeconomics is like the chief or the former chief of like the World Bank. You sort of have a humbling moment. So anyway, that's what I'm getting at.
Thanks, Amerigo. And I think the next question you alluded to a little bit. It's a question from Abhishek. Can you help me understand some examples of how the network has been beneficial, and how it was leveraged by you and your peers?
Yeah, it's solving problems. It really is. It could be small technical problems, but they're almost always opportunities of like, I have an idea. Do you mind if I bounce it with you? What do you think? And it's a venue in which everyone is looking to sort of build upon each other. And so it's not this sort of environment in which they're looking to shoot holes in your thoughts or your ideas or tell you, well, that's not a unicorn. You're wasting your time. No, not at all. We would actually have these pitching moments where you would pitch in front of your classmates. And some of the folks in the class, by the way, folks, are, people work with venture capital funds, right? These are real people that have really big networks, deep pockets, right? Capital, clients, et cetera, giving you advice, right? And really doing it from a place of humility, a place to help you, meeting with you afterwards, dinner, lunch, over a drink. And so I think being able to have and tap into your immediate cohort, that's invaluable. It's absolutely invaluable.
And I think one of the things that we do when students come in, students will have varying levels of comfort quantitatively. We create study teams, and so we will look at everyone's background and put people together so that, maybe somebody has a lot of global experience, somebody's really strong in quant. you had a business analytics background coming in, so that no matter what case project you're working on, your team will have strength. And it goes back to half of your learning will come from each other.
That's a great point. Can I add to that, Deborah? Because I think once you sort of see that in action, it puts you at ease, right? So I was, as you can imagine, the quant guy on the team. My other partner was the finance guru, the other one, big strategy person. And it really did. I mean, I'm pretty sure the MIT admissions team has some sort of scientific algorithm that put us together, because every team was extremely well balanced. And if you don't know something, it's okay. Like, it's perfectly okay.
You can embrace it because you get to contribute at another course, or everyone contributes in their own way. So we have a question from Fiona. Anything that you weren't expecting that you realized while you were in the program? Positives, challenges?
I'm going to go on the challenges side, right? I mean, I'm always talking about how things are great. It's a demanding program. It's demanding, but it's extremely rewarding. All right. So because it's not an online program. So when you talk about coming in for the weekend, right, 3 times, right, every 3 weeks, I forgot. It's been a while, Deborah, I think, right? So you come in for the weekend, action-packed, crammed. You come, right, you sort of step away. You're not having online classes. I mean, you're working, you're case studying, you're meeting with your groups. You're raising 2 kids, right? You're working on your career. And our jobs is, I'm sure everyone can agree on, is not 8 to 5. So sometimes you might put in a 40-hour work week, you might put in 60, but your assignments are still due. And so what I would say is that understand, I think, what is most important to you as you're interested in the program, and most importantly, once you get accepted into the program, because, for me, it was, right, family, work, studies. I mean, it was right. I mean, it was that everything else went to just was secondary, right? So I didn't have much social life, no friends. You didn't have, you're not going to have much time for it. I'll just be very frank with you. I think you'll have very little time for it, because your friend in your life, so to speak, becomes this transformational journey and experience that, I mean, it's still going to consume you, but for all the right reasons. And I think when you sort of let it consume you, yeah, it's demanding, but quite frankly, it's also transforming.
Right. So you have a question from Michael, and I think we can both answer it, but I'm going to let you go first. And his question is, what actions or initiatives are taken by MIT to encourage developing strong professional networks in the cohort, given that the EMBA students tend to spend less time on campus compared to students in the MBA program?
Yeah, it's they do a great job while you're on campus, though. I mean, they do a phenomenal job, actually. You'll have, whether it's, you certainly are in class, obviously learning together and building that collective experience, a lot of networking events, all right, after class. It's not you just come to class from 8 to 5 and you're done. No, I mean, from 6 to like all the way into the night, there's usually typically something going on, networking events, right, having speakers, or having other folks come along. The intermingling of, sort of the overlapping of your prior EMBA class is a really cool experience, right? Who can help you sort of learn the ropes in a few different ways. But don't underestimate, I think, how much networking and relationship building actually occurs in those few days. And then the last piece is you do have those 1 week modules, and that's an all day thing. Those weeks are going to consume you. It's class, it's course, it's study, but it's also networking. It's right, forging relationships. They do a stellar job, and you even have team building activities. I mean, it's a stellar program.
So I would add the 4 week-long modules play an integral role there, because you're actually on campus 8 consecutive days. So you are with your fellow students for 8 days, including courses during the day, working on projects, working on cases, and events, networking events in the evening. So those really are very integral. Even in that first week, it's pretty amazing. And then you're put in the study teams. Alumni can come back for electives, which is very cool. So the last alumni period, we were about split half and half. It's old home week. Some people will sometimes come in just to see their fellow teammates. And we have alumni, 1-year alumni, 5-year alumni meetups, but A lot of people really have talked about how they never anticipated having a personal advisory board of 125 students. We take a group of 126 so that, you know, across industry, vertical, it really is a tremendous resource. We organize, as Americo said, we organize a lot, but then students will also organize a fair amount. You know, so we may have one piece and all of a sudden you hear students are doing all these other things as well. Typically the program does, you know, 4 o'clock on Saturday, classes stop. I would say the bulk of the students do go, but there are some students that will opt to stay Saturday night for, you know, or occasionally stay for a Saturday night dinner club. And I think that networking piece of people are really motivated in this program. And I think they realize the value of a network. And I've heard again and again, you know, it's not just about the academic piece, it's about the community. You know, we have significant other weekend, your first and second fall, where, as the name suggests, you bring in your significant other, they take classes, meet your fellow teammates. Family weekend, we have between your first and second summer, activities for everyone from very young children to, you know, young adults. So really it's a community, I think, and that's the goal on the part of the program to encourage it, but, you know, students equally participate in that as well. So we have one last question. What piece of advice would you give to all of our listeners tonight?
Oh, that's a good one. So here's what I would say is you can do this. And you're like, why is he saying that? Is because you, like all 126 people, are going to sit there and ask yourself, well, you know, can I do this? Right? Do I have this diversity? Do I have this broad experience? And I'm here to tell you, every single one of us thought that. You can do this, but here's my advice. So here's the punchline. You can't do this alone. You're going to need, right, your family. You know, if you're married, you're going to need your spouse. Right. It's really important. It's going to be draining. It's going to be fun. It's a roller coaster ride. You might need your employer to help you. Sometimes, you know, you work 40 or 50 hours, but sometimes is it okay to work 35? Right. And so my advice is really succinct. You can do this, but you can't do this alone. And in terms of who you bring along with you, that's ultimately a personal decision you'll have to decide. But it's perhaps the most important decision I think you've got to make and understand before you move forward.
Great. Americo, thank you so much for joining us. Your input is valuable, and it was great seeing you again. I'd like to end this evening with just a short summary. So the application is still open. We have 2 more rounds this year. 4th round is April 6th, and then the final deadline is May 4th. And the deadlines close at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. The system actually shuts down for each round. And as you can see, you're going to be given a decision if you apply by a particular date. We still have some more upcoming events. A couple in-person events. We have Washington, D.C., Brooklyn, and Philadelphia. And then we have online events as well. Faculty Masterclass, which will feature a faculty member, an admissions chat for any of those questions you have on your application. And then the final webinar is a sustainability panel on April 18th. And you can sign up by going on our website. And then just in conclusion, you know, for students who are, if you're wondering, you're looking for challenge to really challenge yourself and challenge convention, you're looking to broaden your knowledge and your network, and you're looking to have impact your company, the world. You know, we would love to hear from you. We are here to talk if you have any questions, and look forward to your application. I would like to thank everyone this evening for joining us. And this will be recorded and available on our website. Good evening.